When I first started making courses, people would say, why would anyone pay you when they can go to college and get a certificate? I never hear that anymore. Like, you know, that's like a joke now, right? So I could see these things going on. Facebook's degrading, the LMSs are going in the wrong direction, perceptions of Facebook's going down, courses are going mainstream, college is degrading. There's an opportunity here, right? Like this looks like a mainstream thing, making courses on the internet, and the future is going to be more about community.
All right, welcome to the Matt Gray Show. Today we have a special guest, Sam Ovens, the legend behind consulting.com that was doing 35 million at its peak, and now the founder of Skool, which is by far my favorite community platform. It's what the entire community of Founder OS program is all based off of. I know, you've built a massive community on YouTube of 134,000. You built consulting.com, which you recently sold. And you've recently decided to go all in on Skool. And I find, there's these kind of inflection points in our sort of like careers as entrepreneurs, where, we maybe find that we got our kind of handed a bunch of different buckets and we need at some point decide to kind of go all in on one area. And I find that decision-making process to be sometimes tricky. And I think a lot of people struggle with it. I know I have. I'm curious, like how you kind of navigated that decision and, came to the process of deciding to go all in on Skool, and what excites you most about the vision for Skool?
Sure. So, it wasn't like a sudden, like, I'm just going to do this all of a sudden. Like, I was working on consulting.com, right? And I saw I could see the vision and the idea for Skool. But consulting.com was a profitable business, and it was fully in motion with a bunch of employees, customers, everything, and making good money. And Skool was just an idea that needed to be developed. I needed to hire people. I needed to detail this idea. It's like starting another company from scratch again, right?
Right.
And it also requires a lot of capital to do that. And it's also, very risky in a way because nothing is validated at all. Like, you have to start on it and you've got to make all of these choices and you've got to validate them and iterate along the way. So I decided to start Skool about 3.5 years ago. And I started basically just leaning up consulting.com to make it more profitable, smaller, and low maintenance. And then I used the cash flow from that to fund the development of Skool. Then over the last 3.5 years, Skool has grown bigger and bigger, and the team has grown bigger, the cost structure has grown bigger, and it's been validated. So it's a different. Then I got to the point at the end of last year where Skool was pretty big, in terms of users and all of that. And it was very dominating on my time. It could really support itself, financially. So it was a different situation. And that at that point, it was just very clear that I should sell consulting.com, completely exit from that and go all in on this. So it's
been a gradual
it is,
process.
Like you said, complicated. There's a lot to it. And, the process took 3 years. So,
Yeah, no, 100%. And I can imagine there's just a ton of moments along the way that, you gradually decide, like you're saying, to lean out consulting.com more, continue to kind of use the cash flows in that to fund the team, the continued success of Skool. And it's just a constant kind of rebalancing process, it sounds like. I'm curious in terms of, what were some of the biggest learnings and challenges in running sort of a mastermind business? And what do you see that as being different from the biggest learnings you've had so far in the challenges of running a software business?
The two couldn't be more different, honestly. They're very different. Info businesses, masterminds, courses, all of these things, they're very fast to start. You don't need to touch any software. You don't need engineers. You can just build it yourself, right? You can charge a high ticket price pretty much right out of the gates, and you don't really need any staff, and you can be profitable very quickly, and you can make a decent amount of money, right? Whereas software is slow and expensive, and you build a lot and you still can't charge much for it at all. And you can't do anything by yourself, and you need a whole team, and that team is hard to find and very expensive to employ. And, no matter which way you look at it, right, it is different. Like, it is basically the opposite. The advantage, though, I would say, looking at it, if you're looking at it from a short-term perspective, info has all the advantages. If you're looking at it from a lifestyle perspective, info has all of the advantages. If what you want is to make like $1 million a year profit and have no employees and enjoy your life, just definitely start an info business. They're like the best, right? But if you're trying to make something big, then the info business runs into problems at scale, because you're essentially selling yourself. You're leveraging yourself massively through content and everything, but you are like the person, especially if you don't have any employees, you're the person. And so it runs into like, a ceiling, but whereas software could scale, to billions of users, not all software, but it has the potential to do that, right? So it's way like harder at the beginning, but it has the actual like potential to get huge. Whereas info is way easier at the beginning and real profitable, but it doesn't have that potential. And so pretty much every single dynamic and mechanic of the thing is inverted.
Totally. So over the past, decade, you've been, really learning the ins and outs of the info business. You've, built up consulting.com to an absolute juggernaut, and then you're running your quantum mastermind, learning the ins and outs of other people's info businesses. And along the way, sort of understand that there's a need for this kind of like central platform for the core elements of these info businesses all to live in sort of one spot. And so you went and sought out to create Skool a few years ago. I'm curious kind of what's the main problem you're seeking to solve at Skool, and where do you kind of see that going over the next 5 years?
Sure. So, I started making courses 10 years ago, and it was very different back then. Like no one was making courses. And I just kind of fell in love with the craft, like of, finding a niche, getting really obsessed about it, figuring everything out, and then packaging it like the best pieces of knowledge that you acquired through your journey, putting it in a nicely formatted thing, and then bringing together a bunch of people that also were obsessed about it. And then if they pay you, then you're able to like obsess even more. And then, right, because now it's they're sponsoring you in a way, but they're not just giving you money, you're giving back, right? And I just loved that. I was like, this is so badass. I get to like do what I love and hang out with people that also want to do what I love. And that was, I just fell in love with that, and I made courses for like 10 years. That was consulting.com. But along the path of doing that, I noticed that, when I first started making courses, it was just static content in a content portal. So you'd buy a course, it would be a one-time price. You would gain access to a bunch of videos behind a login screen, and it would be very much a single-player experience, right? And it was just a content experience, a static content, single-player experience. You're essentially buying videos, right? But then, social media came out and got quite popular. And then something started happening where people like course creators were inviting their customers or students into a like Facebook group, right? And this was the first time the students got to interact with anything actually and talk to each other. So all of a sudden courses took on a new form. They were dynamic in a way. You could like do stuff, and they were like multiplayer and kind of and social and interactive. They were more fun. And I watched that happen, and I couldn't help but just notice how active the Facebook group was, but how few users would be in the content portal, right? Like all of them were over there, and only a small group of people were here. But everyone was adding the community as like an afterthought. They were like, it's about the course, but you also get this community. But if you looked at the stats, like everyone's in the community. And then I couldn't help but notice when people were posting their success stories, like I achieved this goal, they would always thank these other members in the community. And people would say, like, I love this community is worth more than the price of this course alone. You'd see things like this. And I noticed even a couple of people married someone from the community. Like, they found their business partner. 2 people I know got married. And I was like,
wow.
well, something's going on here. And then the LMS platforms, and they're even called that, like Learning Management System, which is basically a CMS, a content management system. They had no idea about this, right? Nothing. They didn't notice this at all. So the direction that the LMS systems were going in, like Kajabi, Thinkific, all of these, they were just like building more and more like website customization features, basically, like, new themes, just websites, basically. And I could tell that they didn't notice what was going on over here. And then I noticed that Facebook was like getting worse and worse every day. And people's perceptions were changing about Facebook every day. And I could kind of see, like, okay, the product's getting worse over here. The perception of this product's getting worse over here. This other platform, the LMS, is getting worse too because they can't see what's going on. They're going in the wrong direction. And then there was also the fact that, like, courses were going mainstream. Like, influencers and YouTubers and everyone figured out that selling courses was one of the best ways to monetize on the internet. And then you saw things like Masterclass coming out, and and people, celebrities making courses like Hans Zimmer and stuff. And so courses were becoming mainstream, and the education system was degrading on another rapid rate like that. So, like, when I first started making courses, people would say, why would anyone pay you when they can go to college and get a certificate? I never hear that anymore. Like, that's like a joke now, right? So I could see these things going on. Facebook's degrading. The LMSs are going in the wrong direction. Perceptions of Facebook's going down. Courses are going mainstream. College is degrading. There's an opportunity here, right? Like, this looks like a mainstream thing, making courses on the internet, and the future is going to be more about community. And so that's all I really knew. It's like I could, once you've done something for long enough, like I'd done it for about 10 years and I was very obsessed about it, you can kind of see all of these signals and markers, and you have a pretty good gut feeling that you can see the future. You don't know, but you think or feel that you can. And I just decided to place a bet on it and start Skool about 3.5 years ago. And that's how it really started.
That's amazing. Well, I think, 10 years doing it, it sounds like you've really honed in on that with a lot of these kind of course businesses, info businesses and beyond, that community is truly the product. And that will separate, I think, the mediocre from the amazing course businesses out there, is that those communities, and it truly is like a competitive advantage. I know with Founder West program, the founders that we have coming to us, beyond just looking for clarity around, how to scale their business, their audience, their brand, they're really looking for a sense of belonging. They're looking to connect with, other founders and help grow together, have different problems figured out, ask different questions. And I think at the end of the day, you're just looking for someone and a community of people that kind of have your back and that are looking out for you and that you can lean on, with the wins and also when you're confused or you have a loss. I'm curious, we were in LA hanging out after that one mastermind end of last year. Your approach to community, I think, is based in a lot of like first principles and a hell of a lot of research. I know you've scanned countless Wikipedia pages and gone deep into, the formation of things like religion, and a bunch of other things. I'm curious, what does a strong community look like to you? And what do you think some of those like key kind of components are? How do you look at it?
What's really interesting about the fact that, I started in courses and now I'm like focusing on community is that I think the way the internet has evolved is people really don't know how to build community or like how it works. Because do you remember when social networks were called social networks?
Back in the day, yeah.
Like, what are they called
14
now?
14 years ago or so now.
What are they called
People
now?
say that they're called platforms,
social
media
what?
platforms.
What's the word? Social media,
Platforms?
right? So it's turned into media. So
Right.
like on TikTok, you create media. It's one to many. So it's like one person who's like famous creates stuff for everyone, and they all like follow that person. It's not really interactive between me, the creator, and the consumer. That's why they're called a follower. And the followers don't interact with each other either in this kind of setup, right? That is not a community. So it's really important to like make that distinction. Like a community is where the members, I think the strength of a community can be measured by the strength of the relationships between the members, not between the members and like, the owner. That's considered like fame, right? And it's a very different thing, especially if you're getting someone. This is a fascinating thing I've noticed. Like someone will come over, they'll make a group on Skool, and they'll invite a bunch of people, and then they think that what they have to do is post in there like daily and add value. I'm sure you've heard about adding value, right?
Yeah, totally.
And adding value is like telling people adding value seems to be telling people what they should do, which is basically like lecturing at a bunch of people without even knowing what the fuck their situation is. Like, which is not cool to like consume. I don't know about you. I don't want to just go around and have people tell me what to do without them even knowing who I am. Like, I want to talk to some people. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah. So, and what's really interesting is the internet was made for this, the interaction between people. It used to be very much about hobbyists and everyone interacting with each other. That was the original internet. That was the original websites, the original, the original MSN and chat and things like forums, right? But social media and the rise of this like person called an influencer, and then algorithms to really make things even more, distorted. That really changed everything. And I think what people are craving more than anything is community. But people have to change their paradigm to like know how to make a good community, because it's not, I read this good quote by this guy, and he said, audience builders provide answers. Community builders ask questions.
Wow.
Right?
I love that.
So it's really, I think a good community designer, they don't think about themselves, they think about the members, and they create an architecture or a scaffolding in a way that gets the members to share something so that other members can interact with that, right? And they coordinate the thing in a way where it's all about the members interacting with each other and them kind of just stepping out and letting that happen. But when you try to just provide all the content and just post, it doesn't leave any room for anyone to interact. So these people that are adding value in these groups by posting, they always say, I don't know why my community isn't engaging. I'm adding value. Yeah. I mean, it's funny, but it's honestly like, this is what's going on.
Yeah. And so to get like, just to curious, you kind of dive into that a bit, right? So as someone that, I have my group on Skool, I'm curious, like, what is an example of like a question that could be asked to that community we built with Founder OS to like spark that level of like involvement that you're kind of referring to right now?
Yeah, I think, some of the best things I did when I was doing my courses with consulting.com was I created this idea of an accountability partner, right? I said, if you want, to be successful, you need to have a partner one-on-one where you do a Skype call every day, or it's Zoom now, whatever, and you hold each other accountable every day. And I said, if you want to find an accountability partner, do a post like this, tell them your time zone, say what your goals are, and then if you're interested in partnering with them, comment below. That's all I said. I just said a few things, right? That turned out to be really successful because a bunch of people found really, like, these partners became business partners, and that's how some people got married.
Wow.
And that was a really good thing I did. just kind of by accident. Another one was getting people to practice sales calls together. So in one of my courses, I was teaching how to do sales. And I thought, people need confidence before they can do a real call. So they were role playing with each other. So it's like someone was pretending to be the prospect, and that worked really well. So, and then another one that worked really well was meetups. So if you have a super fan, I think this is where we're getting into it, like identifying your super fans or your top contributors, whatever you want to call them, and empowering them to do stuff and getting people that aren't you to contribute to the group, right? Because if you start showing your members that you will reward and highlight them and let them contribute, then everyone will want to contribute because they want that too, right? So, I've started doing this in our Skool community group. Like one guy, Andrew Kirby, he was using Skool in an interesting way. Some of the posts he did in there, people were really curious about. And so I got him to make a little course, on how he was using Skool to create a free group funnel. And this wasn't me making content. It wasn't even my idea, right? But I noticed that, and I got him to make a course, and then I shouted him out to the community in the email list, right? And that definitely made the community better, because a lot of people, all of a sudden, they started realizing, oh, this isn't just like Sam trying to dominate or anything. It's like, this is about, anyone can contribute. But, if you find those stars, and you could even get them to hold local meetups. So let's say one star's in Canada, you could give them some money to buy drinks and dinner and stuff for a Canadian meetup if there was enough people interested. Just subsidizing different leaders to do stuff. And then, I created a category in Skool community the other day that's called How I Use Skool. So just getting people to share how they're using it. Any way you can get people to share, instead of you just telling them stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. And then what a better way to learn about the different use cases people have for your product, and to see, people always find their own little hacks and workarounds. I know that's how, you were saying that you discovered this whole concept of community funnels from people using Skool because they weren't getting the functionality that they wanted from Facebook groups, and instead using Skool to host their community and be able to set and close people from there. So, I've seen the same thing with Founder OS, people using some of the different content OSs that we share, or audience growth OSs that oftentimes, maybe they go through one thing and it's meant to be applied to Twitter, but instead they're using the same hooks and formulas to go and blow up on YouTube. And so it's always interesting to see how people maybe take one use case and apply it to others, and allows you to kind of learn more about your community, learn more about your product, and see what other applications it has. What are some of the interesting ways that people are using Skool right now that surprised you?
I honestly don't even know. There's so much going on that I know what people want though. I know there's people doing group funnels, right? That's definitely a hot use case, and there's people just providing standard courses with the bolt-on community, right? Some people want to create a free group, but I think I know what most people want, and they want a subscription community, where people, they've got a community where people pay a monthly fee to be a member. And so then I'm pretty sure that's what everybody wants. And then it's kind of like having your own SaaS business, but without code, right? You've got monthly recurring revenue and all of that. And people paid it for membership more than content. So then the question is how do you really make a great community to be in, other than just trying to get people in for content? Do you know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. How is the community inside of it the real product, and how is people sharing things, the different community boards? How does that, what people are really coming for, and how do you curate the right people too? I'm curious how, you see that evolving. I think oftentimes the value of a community, is the level of curation of the members, right? The more kind of similar, like-minded, the more that you curate the right people, and then also say no to people, oftentimes the stronger that community is. I'm curious how you look at that when you're kind of developing these communities on Skool, or at least advising people on how best to use Skool?
Yeah. So that's the key part, like, how to best use it. Like, I think everyone's kind of knows community, and they're coming at it and they're like trying to make a community. But I think a lot of people are confused, like, because they're saying I'm adding value and people aren't engaging. And so I think it's an interesting thing where the framing of it is really important, I think. You've got to like frame it really well. I know a really good community that's about 80,000 dentists, right? And you have to be a practicing dentist to get in. They actually check because you've got a certificate or whatever. And they don't run any marketing or anything. And it's got about 96% like monthly active users, right?
Wow.
At that size, which is like unheard of, really. That's so engaged. And it grows purely on referral, like word of mouth. And it's considered so valuable that some different dental schools around America have made it part of their curriculum and so really, I think the key to what he's done is he didn't just try to get a bunch of dentists in a group so he could market to them. I think this is where everyone ruins it, right? And he didn't have a short-term view. And I think, because think about the pattern that social media gets you used to. Big number, good, right? That's it. Lots of views, lots of likes, lots of subs, good. It's different with community. You can get a lot of people in your community all of a sudden, but it will suck. It's almost like the rules are different with community. So it's community's about quality, right? Whereas fame is about like volume. So he was very intentional and deliberate and careful, and he took a long-term view when he grew this community. So the framing of it was the first step. So it's by a dentist, so he's actually a dentist, and it's only for dentists. And that's just very clear, right? So it's like, then he actually checked, and he made sure it was well curated in there and no one's like pitching. And then he himself didn't even pitch anything in there either. It's just kept quality. And then it just started to like snowball. Word of mouth drives all the growth. And, then he started selling some courses and things, and they naturally upsell and do all of that, but he never even posts promotions in there. He just wants to protect like the integrity of the group. Now, why is that so attractive? Well, if you're a dentist, is there anywhere in the world, think about it, like where you can hang out with 80,000 dentists?
Dad's a dentist, and I've never heard him being in an online community of a bunch of dentists. I feel like I need to tell him about this. So no, not that I'd heard of before.
He
this
might be in this one, honestly. There's a high chance he's in this one. And so it's essentially Disneyland for dentists. Think about it. That's what you want to create, I think. Like it's more than anything, they just get to hang out with people like them.
Yep.
Learning is the byproduct, right? But I think what you'll find is no one really wants to learn, like as their first thing. Like people want to have fun and connect with people that are interesting. And generally people are interesting when they're interested in the things you're interested in.
Totally.
So, you're into heavy metal. Wouldn't it be cool if you could hang out with other people that were into heavy metal? Because you wouldn't feel weird. You would be like, oh, these are my people, right? And if it's beekeeping, right? So I think the framing of it's really important. I think you need to forget about all the stuff like making money and promoting and funneling even. Just forget about it all and just think, what is this like passion here? I think if you're super passionate about something, then it makes other people passionate about it too, if they're like interested in it. And then the volume of passion that every member has, like that makes the group better, right? So like, what is this thing? Is it dentistry? Is it heavy metal? I don't know what it is, but you need to define what that thing is and then decide on the criteria to get in. And then you need to protect that. And you can't just try to grow it real fast. Like it will grow real fast and it will get big and be awesome, but you have to protect the group. It's like, imagine any community that's just trying to rapidly scale. It falls apart unless you keep making sure it grows properly.
Yeah. No, you got to have that manifesto, those kind of community guidelines, and you got to uphold that, or else, yeah, the quality, the integrity of that group diminishes over time. And yeah, like you're saying, the value of these communities beyond learning or anything is really just a sense of belonging amongst the members. And so you need to ensure that, that community integrity is maintained, so that core need, which is the belonging, the interaction amongst members, the fun, it's upheld over time. And that people, when they're in,
I think
feel like,
once you get the right people in, like let's say you get just like people that are into heavy metal in, you don't need to like then provide a like massive post, like 8 ways to tune your guitar. Like, screw that. That's boring. There's that all over the internet. It's more like happy hour on a Wednesday on Zoom. So like, if you don't have a beer, you get kicked, right? So like literally trying to make it like that. It's like when it's just hanging out. Like, why do you go to a bar? You don't go because there's like some dude just dropped a PDF or some nuggets of like value. You go there because you want to hang out with some people and you want to have a good time.
It's a great way of putting it. Yeah. Happy hours over value. New slogan.
Because if you get the people together and it's fun, the value will happen. It's just the value is like guaranteed, actually. It's because talking to dentists can't help but discuss some interesting dentist shit, right?
Totally.
That's going to happen. You don't need to you just need to get them together and make it fun.
Yeah. Fun will lead to learning. That's basically guaranteed. Learning, not necessarily leading to fun. And so therefore, focus on the fun, focus on the belonging, and just bring together amazing like-minded people. Yeah, no, totally. So to kind of shift gears here a bit, from the conversations we've had, I've always admired your kind of dedication to, constant improvement. You're someone that, you had this vision for Skool. You developed it over years and years of going really, really deep in one space. And then from my perspective, Sam, what I really admire is you self-funded this for years. You really put your money where your heart was and kind of put everything you got into building this out, and really building out your vision. And you risked everything, you risked a lot to build it out. And, I really just, the level of, commitment, the level of, passion and just belief that takes in yourself is like really admirable. I'm curious, how do you kind of stay focused and kind of stay forward thinking when you've got, you got a team now, I think of 30 plus now at Skool? What's your kind of, how do you maintain that level of discipline? Oh, only 15. Okay. So much more lean. Yeah. How do you approach that in the discipline of building?
What else am I going to do?
That's the answer. Mic drop.
No, I mean, seriously, if you want to build Skool, that's what I wanted to do, right? I have to build it. And so anything that isn't building it is basically a distraction. There's other things you have to do because, you can't run out of money. You have to hire people. You have to communicate with your people. There needs to be people need to be looked after and happy, and you need to provide support, and you have to do your accounting. You have to, there's a bunch of stuff that's mandatory that isn't building. And the key is to get other people to do all of that, and so that you can just build. And I just love it too. Building is what I like doing. When I was building my info business, I really disliked having to do marketing, because marketing is something that's temporary. You do it, and then then you throw it away. You do some more, throw it away. So you're always you're on some kind of treadmill. But building, I like, because every day you build on top of what you did yesterday. And so I like that. It's more aligned to my personality, I think. So I think it's a natural thing where it's what I want to do. And it's also the nature of building this kind of business. Yeah. What do you mean? How do I stay disciplined and stuff? What do you mean?
So in terms of, building Skool is a complex platform. To the user, it's very simple and very elegant, across the calendar, the community, the leaderboard. It all seems so seamless. But, I've built a couple software products over my career, and I know that in the background, there's a ton of complexity to that. And I think there's a lot of founders, whether they're getting started or scaling up to that next level. And I think oftentimes they kind of struggle with, action paralysis. They get on a streak of taking a bunch of action over, say, a couple months, or they get on a good streak of even 6 months. And then, something happens, they fizzle out, they burn out. But you're someone that's been doing this for, 13 years, just consistently, more or less. You seem to be more passionate than ever with what you're building with Skool. And I'm just curious kind of how it's like that monk-like discipline you have. I'm curious how you've kind of built that and maybe some of like the routines behind that.
I think what it is actually is that I'm terrible at doing something I don't want to do. Like I'm really probably one of the worst. And so, I don't have that kind of discipline. Like with that stuff, but if I do the stuff that I like doing that's very enjoyable for me, I can keep going, and it's like I stay focused, I stay disciplined. Not because the word discipline doesn't even come to mind. It's just so good that I don't want to stop.
It's just
because it feels good. Yeah. But what that means is that what I've done over like the last 10 or so years has changed a lot because I've kept following that kind of feeling. And so, like dropping consulting.com, I was starting to dread that. And it was really like making me kind of like down. And it was because it was taking me away from the thing that I loved, right? So it was draining my energy, and I was very bad at doing it because I couldn't really stay focused because I wanted to do this other thing. So I think just being attuned to like what your heart or soul kind of wants, and being able to differentiate that between like what other people want, like, because I think a lot of people are real bad at like misattributing what like their heart wants and what like the hype says, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's difficult. We're kind of mimetic beings. And so oftentimes it's hard to differentiate between, are you just enjoying other people's approval for what you're doing, or in your heart of hearts late at night before you go to bed, are you actually stoked to wake up in the morning and work on the thing you're going to work on just for the sake of, serving people around it, being on the team, building the product? Does that actually get you jazzed, or is it just, the outside world's approval or hype around what you're doing, which is sometimes difficult?
Well, that's why I can't look at social media, honestly. Like if I look at Twitter or anything, like sometimes even reading a book throws it off. I start to think, people are very opinionated on the internet, and the way you get quite popular is by having very strong opinions, right? And they're very kind of like dogmatic even and religious. And so sometimes I go like onto the internet and might have a little scroll of Twitter or whatever, and I read all of these opinions, and all of a sudden I'm anxious and I'm worried, like, am I missing this next thing? Because, some people say if you don't do this, your business is dead in like two days or something. And all of a sudden I'm like, I've all of these thoughts in my head, and I feel like tense, and I doubt my ability really fast. Like this all could happen. This could go down in an hour, right?
Yep.
And then I lose the ability to hear my intuition. I can't find it anymore. It's like quite a delicate signal, really. And I think most people have, they've lost theirs. And because there's too much signal coming into them all the time, just like feed, they're feeding on everything. The phone's going off nonstop. And so they mistake what like their heart wants with what, like, the hype of the month is, right? And so really I've changed what I've done, like, but it's been based on what I've loved doing, and I've kind of drowned out a lot of that other noise. That's really good for me. Like when I make most of my decisions off intuition, like, and when I do that, I can move very fast. And I seem to get some kind of like psychic connection to the user almost. Like I can kind of read their minds and build for them. And I give it to them, and they're like, they love it. And then, I don't even really it's just happening. I'm not even thinking too much about it. And it's very fast, and it flows, and it's very enjoyable and energizing to do. But the moment I read other people's opinions, it throws it off big time. I mean, there's a time and a place for that. Like if I'm stuck, then, I might go and read like some things and that might help me get unstuck. But when I'm in that zone, I shouldn't distract myself with anything.
Yeah, no, I've been there. We've all been there many times in our, daily lives. It's just, trying to, I'd say kind of tuning into like a whole body yes, like what feels right in your head and your heart and your soul, kind of for me, at least my spiritual field, like are all those things aligned, and are they saying to move forward in one direction, or is there one part of my body that feels like it's getting caught up and doesn't feel aligned, and I need to kind of tune into that and potentially say no to something that my mind is telling me, hey, you make money from this, or this team's awesome, or whatever it may be, but something in my heart or my body is just kind of put off by it. And I need to kind of just trust my intuition, trust my body there, and kind of say no to things that sometimes are difficult to say no to. I'm curious, in your, recent decision. So, you're building consulting.com. It's been helping fund, amongst other things, like Skool, which is going incredibly well, blowing up. And you decide at some juncture, like, damn, like it's been long enough here. I'm kind of, dreading, in your words or whatever the word is, doing consulting.com much. I've had that prior, at a certain juncture when I was building Bitmaker when I was 21, there, was doing it for a couple of years, and I started dreading it and knew it was time to exit. And those transitions are super tricky, because oftentimes, it's not right for you, but then having the sort of the gumption, the willpower, I don't know, the alignment to then be like, okay, I'm going to make a plan for, this transition, I find that for me is the most difficult part. I'm curious, like, how did you sort of like handle that? Like, so your body your intuition in your words is kind of like telling you this isn't quite right any longer. Like, what now? What do you do next?
Are we talking about here when I decided it's time to close sell consulting.com?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I just did all the math. Like, I knew like it's time to stop. Like, okay, then how do I actually do that? Right? Like, so Quantum Mastermind is an annual membership. We add members in progress. So we basically had to do a spreadsheet. Like, everyone in the mastermind, when did they sign up? How many months have they used? If we did a prorated refund, right, of the months they haven't used, how much cash would we have to refund? So just did that spreadsheet. What is that number? Okay, now I can like weigh a feeling with a number, because, I want to stop. I'll feel way better. And then, but it's going to cost this. Is it pragmatic to trade that money? And then also like the opportunity cost, like how much time and brain space is consulting.com taking, and what could I do in Skool, and how much value would that add over there? So like you're weighing the opportunity cost, the true financial immediate cost, and then your feelings and happiness and energy and all of that. And it was very obvious like that it was like what the right choice was.
I like that. I mean, yeah, there's an element of bringing some sort of like analytical thinking, some numbers to it. And I'm sure a lot of the benefit came from not just seeing the numbers, but just the process of sort of getting, out of the feeling now and kind of moving towards like taking action, putting a plan together, and then pursuing next steps to exit. So no, I like that sort of method for, I think a lot of people struggle with like whether they're in a 9-to-5 job and they want to leave it for something that's like a side hustle that's going well, or someone that, has a portfolio of internet companies, has one that's bringing them energy, one that's like not feeling as good as the other, and trying to figure out, okay, well, what do I do next? So that idea of kind of moving from feeling to actually analyzing the situation and planning the exit makes a lot of sense. In terms of, so I know, I don't know anyone really more obsessed with community than you. It's kind of what you do now, obviously full time, but even before that, it's obviously been something that you've really been big on fostering and studying. I know, when we were talking, there were a lot of parallels you drew between, different religions and the studies you had done of some of the, most, ancient religions, and the similar patterns that they had, and the learnings in terms of how people today foster really strong communities. I'm curious, like some of those frameworks that you think are present in religions and how they transfer to like the strength of a community when you're building it on a platform like Skool even.
Well, Yeah, I think if we look at like religion, the thing that makes it it's a big what's interesting about it is it's a big community and it's long lasting. So like that's really interesting. So then we look at its structure, right? I think its structure is probably the reason why it's been so resilient and at such a large size over such a long period of time. So the architecture of it is a global philosophy and a local cluster, right? So like a local church, call it. So, you subscribe to this overall like worldview, whatever religion that is, and it tells you like what's right and wrong and what is a good way to live. We need some kind of value system, and I think there's some people that can come up with their own value systems and kind of build them themselves, but I think a lot of people are just looking, they've got enough shit going on in their life. They're like, just give me one. And so they give you one, and they've got documentation that you can read up on, and then you can, but I think you've got a belief, you're like subscribed to a belief, you've got some instructions and documentation to live life and for dealing with things. But I think the main thing, honestly, I think if you were to ask most people, why do you go to church? To see their friends, because it's the local community, right? Like they get to like, if there wasn't a local church where you could go there physically and meet other people that are mostly your neighbors, because, churches are local. So by design, you're meeting people locally that you can hang out with and stuff. Then I don't think it would work. So I think it's, that kind of global philosophy, local cluster. That's really what makes it work. And, no one's there just for the priest, actually. Like, the priest isn't, there's probably there's celebrity churches now, you hear of them because, people love celebrities. But, like, for the most part, I think most churchgoers around the world don't go for the priest. They go for the other members. And they're probably not even talking about religious stuff. They're probably, when they get to talk to each other, like, the church experience is the excuse to go and hang out kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, there's a lot of parallels between, people meeting up at a church in their local community to hang with others in the community, and the example of, an online dental community of people that are just a bunch of dentists hanging out in their version of a Disneyland and having fun with one another. Inevitably, it's people showing up with similar people and, showing up for those like-minded feeling of belonging amongst one another and to have some fun in their own way. And less for, the overall philosophy brings them together, but that's just a part of the formula. Yeah, like dentists, it's not really a religion, but it's kind of like one. It's a way of life. It's a philosophy. It's a way of thinking. There's like, there's a body of like work around dentistry. And that's how they, that's how they connect with each other. But then, it's the people that they want to meet. And then that's why I think it's made even stronger when you find your the key people in your community that are really obsessed and they really get it, and you let them hold their kind of local cluster meetup things, because that's how you really strengthen your community. That's like the global philosophy, local, physical meetups. I don't think we're ever going to replace in person. I think the value of in person is only going to increase the more we make things digital. Yeah, no, I agree with that a lot. There's a lot of power to bring people together. I was at our good friend Cole's mastermind in Scottsdale just last Friday. And the power of all these people that I'd met through Skool and the community there that he has, and then was able to bring all these people that are all looking to get to 8 figures this year, all in person, jamming on our respective businesses, sharing different learnings, and more importantly, just going to dinner, having a good time, and getting to know one another on a human level is invaluable. So, he's got these optional monthly get-togethers he's doing, and I'll be sure to attend every single one of those in-person meetups, no matter where I am in the world, and fly out to it just because of that. That value of just seeing these people in person and connecting on a deeper level outside of any online platform. So, can definitely relate to it. A couple of last ones here. I'm curious, I studied a lot of different people out there, one of them being, Charlie Munger, who's big on, studying a host of different sort of, fields, whether it be, mathematics, investing, philosophy, psychology, and then forming your own lattice work of mental models that then you can use to apply to, in his case, investing with Warren Buffett to create unbelievable portfolio returns and, in his words, shareholder value. On your side, it seems like, from our conversations, you've studied a bunch of different stuff yourself, biology, philosophy, some religion, the info businesses, masterminds, and a bunch of other things, and formed your own lattice work of kind of what makes a successful community and also what makes a successful software product. I've heard you before speak around how developing software is very similar to biology in many senses, and was curious if you could kind of expand on that.
I think if you look at anyone that's done any master of any field, or anyone that's advanced a field, right? Then it becomes quite clear kind of how they do it, right? So I think one of the earliest ones would probably be Leonardo da Vinci. So, he was a painter, right? But he was also very curious about other things, and he learned about chemistry, so he could mix his own pigments, right? So if he knew chemistry, he could make his own pigments of paint, and then he could bring that into his painting and get that extra edge on that would make his paintings pop compared to other people's. And then, he was interested in, he dissected bodies down at the morgue he was curious, and he dissected eyes, and he was the first person to figure out the structure of the eye and how optics worked. And that enabled him to create perspective in his paintings. So they looked like they were dimensional. And, he studied architecture and engineering to make sure that the lines and the structures in his paintings, they followed physics. So there's something very satisfying to looking at his art because it makes sense. And he's optimized for physics, architecture, the way lines look in the real world and structurally. And then, how the eye works, pigments, how light hits things. And so that, you could say he was very distracted in a way. Why didn't Da Vinci just keep painting? But he explored other areas, not because he wanted to become a master chemist or a master architect or whatever, purely because he wondered, is there anything in this world I can bring back to mine? And so, my world has been courses, and then I knew that communities was basically going to become the future of this thing. And obviously all of this happens on the internet, and the internet's built with code and software. So, I've looked at all of these different areas like religion, software, biology, architecture, design, even different periods in time, like the Renaissance, where Da Vinci's from. But always with the lens of what can I find in here and bring back into my own work to make it better. So I'm always searching for new stuff that I can use. I have a Tesla, and I bought it because I truly believed it was the best car in the world. It's fast, it's safe, it's a reasonable price based on its performance and everything. It looks quite good. And it's basically a computer, right? And so when I bought that, I was able to see, and when I used it, I was able to see how some of the smartest minds in the world reimagined the car from the ground up, basically. And that gave me lots of insights into how I could reimagine courses or communities. I was like, oh, wow, they just completely got rid of the motor. And that means that they don't even need a gearbox. And that means that it's silent. And that means that, just looking at the things they cut out of it, it made me think what would that look like with, courses or communities or whatever. And so I'm always looking, I want to try the best products, watch the best movies, and study the best minds and look at these fields where humans have advanced massively and find kind of the best stuff so that I can kind of curate it and bring it in and find a way to weave it into my own kind of work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And yeah, the inspiration can be found anywhere. And oftentimes it's interesting to see how, in another field, like in this case with the Tesla, how is this like, absolute feat of human engineering? Like what were some of the principles that went into that? What were some of the modifications that were made, or in many cases, like you're saying, the things that were eliminated from it to allow it to be such an amazing machine? And how can those same sort of principles, in this case, the principle of kind of like elimination, be applied to a community platform like Skool to kind of focus on what really matters and what people are really coming there for, and eliminate all the noise? Because I can only imagine, I've been in the Skool community that you guys.
Have you used it?
I have.
Did you go into the settings menu?
It's been a second. So I think so though. I think I've been in the settings menu.
Yeah, maybe after this, like you should Google like Tesla settings menu, right? Or next time you're in one, try it and see if it reminds you of something. Like, I think the thing I learned when I first got into Tesla and I went to the settings, I was like, oh my God, every setting for the entire car is in one menu. And I can just pull it up with one button. You pop the settings thing and boom, it comes up. And the whole car's in there. So you don't have all of these different menus and all of these different places. It's just all there. And that was the first time I'd seen that. And so that's why I did the Skool settings menu that way.
Mm-hmm.
In Skool, you pop the settings menu and everything's in there.
It's so easy. Yeah, no, it's everything. Yeah, whether you want to add a member.
Some people have even said, I love Skool. It reminds me of my Tesla. I don't think they know why, but it's because there's these little things. It's not like you're copying it directly, because that's a car and this is a software, right? And the design's different, the colors are different, but that's what it really is. It's like using great stuff and finding the things that really stand out to you and like figuring out how you can use that.
Yeah. And when you're finding all these different sources of inspiration, and, I know you're getting tons of feedback from the community in Skool, like all the creators that are using it, the course people, the info people, you got dentists in there, you got YouTubers in there, all these different people, and they're all super vocal. I've seen the Skool community that you guys have where you're getting tons of product feedback all the time. Like, how are you picking out, like, amongst all that feedback, like building a mobile app, building payments, building subscriptions, I can only imagine all the suggestions you're getting, right? How does someone decide on like what to focus on?
I think you have to listen to all of that stuff and you have to talk to everyone. But then you have to really put yourselves in their shoes and imagine you're them. That's why it really pays to be one of them, so that you're just doing it. And then you have to think, like, what are they really trying to do? Like, why? What are they trying to do? Because when you think of that, because there's always some deeper thing to what people say, right? Like someone's like, I want a Zapier integration. I want to be able to, I want group chat. I want live streaming. I want all of this different stuff. But why? You've got to really try to get down deep. And then you've got to think, like, what is it that everyone wants? And then I think this is the art of real good product management and design is you have to like innovate on their behalf yourself. You have to be like, you have to choose in the end, right? And that's honestly the hardest part. That's innovation, essentially. Because there's famous stories like the Henry Ford. He said if I'd asked the customer what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. He really thought, like, why does someone want a faster horse? Well, they want to go from point A to point B faster. Well, why not a car? Well, they think cars are unaffordable because they are. Well, what if we made a car cheaper? Well, that becomes the challenge. So that's the model. That's the Model T production line. And that's how that basically the problem of A to B transportation got boiled down to production. And so the game is production. To break the cost barrier, to make it a possibility so that they can rule horse out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so, it's distilling that
and then,
feedback you're getting to the essence.
And Steve Jobs famously with like the iPhone, all the customer research, everyone said I'd never pay $1,000 for a phone.
Yeah. And we know where that ended up.
Because they hadn't seen an iPhone. Yeah.
Right. And so, it's getting clear on, you got to listen, and you obviously value the feedback you're getting from your members, but at the end of the day, you got to make sure you're kind of getting down to the root cause of what's causing that need and are solving the right problem versus maybe solving the surface level problem that they may be surfacing. So makes a lot of sense. So last question here is in terms of like, your big vision for Skool, where do you kind of see it going over the next 10 years? What's, I know you got a massive vision for this, and sort of what's your overall sort of game plan to get there? So
the mission is to help 1 billion people find community. And so how do we do that? So like, 1 billion people all around the world finding their group of people that are their little Disneyland, whether that's heavy metal or dentistry, surgery, whatever. How do we do that? Well, by empowering 1 million creators to earn a full-time living building community online. So people that are so passionate about something, I believe there's definitely 1 million, perhaps a lot more, people that are so obsessed about their craft, whatever it is, that they want to build, they want to make their career bringing that group together so that that space exists on the internet. And for them to do that, it needs to be economically viable. They need to be able to earn a full-time living doing that. So that is their career, right? And I think the business model for that is subscription membership. We're seeing that is the new model, the new economic model of the internet. I mean, Substack is doing it for writing. OnlyFans is doing it for porn. And there's other businesses doing it too, where the creator essentially gets paid to do their work. And so if you imagine, 1 million creators building community online, if they have 1,000 members each on average, obviously there'll be a distribution curve. Then that's 1 billion people.
I love it. And, I agree with you. I mean, community is the new product, and it really is the competitive advantages for so many people's business. And like we've been talking about through this, it's the reason why a lot of people want to come together. It's not the value. It's not the learning, although that's a small part of it. It's really the belonging. It's the fun. It's the play amongst members and developing real relationships and getting to know one another on a human level. And so there needs to be, a place where people can gather, a platform for people to come together, and a business model for that all makes sense. And subscription is kind of the obvious approach. So no, I'm excited to dive in more as that kind of comes more to light and more to reality. And big fan of everything you're building at Skool. I can tell you that all the founders in Founder OS program too are really stoked on it and excited for where it's all going. So appreciate all you and the team are doing.
Thanks.
All right, Sam. Well, this has been fun. And I appreciate all your insights here. And it's always good to jam on community and everything around it with you. This has been another episode of the Mac Ray Show. Thank you so much, Sam, for being on here. There'll be a link below in the description to Skool for those of you looking to go and develop your own meeting place for your community so they can come together, have fun, get to know one another, and develop real relationships with one another. I can't recommend Skool highly enough. It's been an absolute game changer for Founder OS. And so go check that out in the description below, and go check out the newsletter for Founder OS if you're looking to grow your audience and your community. And again, thank you so much, Sam. Appreciate your time.